You're suspended until you apologize to my son. My stepdad says it like he's handing down a death sentence. Derek is standing behind him, arms crossed, smirking like he's already won. 15 staff members are watching, waiting to see if I'll cry, waiting to see if I'll beg. I look at Derek, at the smirk he's been wearing since the day our parents got married, at the same smirk he wore when he deleted the security footage, when he forged my signature, when he stole from Mrs. Patterson's room and let me take the blame. Okay, I say. Derek's smirk grows wider. My stepdad blinks. Okay? Okay, I'll go. I grab my bag and walk out. No tears, no begging, no fight. They think I'm broken. They have no idea that by tomorrow morning, 2 state inspectors will walk through that door and everything they built will be gone. My mom married Richard when I was 16. I didn't like him, but I kept my mouth shut because she seemed happy. For the first time since my dad passed, she was smiling again. So I swallowed my opinions and tried to make it work. That was my first mistake. I'd make a lot more before this was over. Richard owned a high-end senior care facility just outside of Austin, Texas. Sunny Pines Assisted Living, 42 residents, mostly elderly folks with dementia or health issues, people who couldn't defend themselves, people whose families trusted Richard to keep them safe. I didn't know it then, but some of those residents were being robbed blind. And by the time I figured out who was doing it, I'd already be taking the blame. Richard had a son from his first marriage, Derek, same age as me, 19. And from the moment our parents got married, Derek made it clear he didn't see me as family. He saw me as competition. The problem was, Derek was lazy. He'd show up late, leave early, and spend most of his shifts scrolling on his phone in the break room. The residents didn't like him. The staff didn't respect him. But Richard couldn't see any of it. To him, Derek was perfect. I started working at Sunny Pines right after graduation. I needed money for college, and Richard offered me a job in the front office, filing paperwork, answering phones, handling compliance documents, boring stuff, but I was good at it. Too good, apparently. Within 6 months, I'd reorganized the entire filing system and built a spreadsheet tracking every medication for every resident. The Texas State Inspector said it was the most organized facility she'd seen in 10 years. Richard didn't thank me. He thanked Derek, who happened to be standing nearby. But here's the thing about being the organized one, the one who touches every document, every file, every record. You see things. Things people don't want you to see. And I was about to see way too much. The trouble started with Mrs. Patterson. She was 84 years old, sweet as honey, and the only person in that entire building who ever asked how I was doing. She'd been at Sunny Pines for 2 years. I brought her tea every morning before my shift. What Derek did to her is the reason I burned everything down. One Tuesday, Mrs. Patterson grabbed my wrist as I was setting down her cup. "Someone's been in my room," she whispered, "at night, taking things." I sat down on the edge of her bed. "What things?" "My husband's watch, the one he wore every day for 40 years, and my pearl necklace, and money from my purse." Her eyes filled with tears. "They think I'm crazy. They think I'm forgetting where I put things, but I'm not crazy. Someone is stealing from me." "I believe you," I said. And I did. Because Mrs. Patterson wasn't confused. She was sharper than half the staff. That same afternoon, Mrs. Patterson's daughter came to visit and found her mother crying. She went straight to Richard. Richard called a staff meeting. He was furious. He said theft from residents was a fireable offense and possibly criminal. He said he'd be reviewing footage from the hallway cameras and whoever was responsible would be prosecuted. I watched Derek's face during that meeting. He didn't look worried. He looked calm. Too calm. That night, I stayed late to finish some filing. Around 9, I walked past the security office and noticed Derek inside, sitting at the computer where the camera footage was stored. I stopped, watched through the window. He was clicking through screens, selecting files, deleting them. He was erasing the footage. My heart started pounding. I pulled out my phone, pressed record, and filmed 10 seconds of him at that computer. Then I walked away before he saw me. I should have gone to Richard right then. But I knew what would happen. Richard would believe whatever Derek told him. He always did. So I saved the video. And I waited. The next morning, Richard announced that the camera system had malfunctioned, and the footage from the past 2 weeks was gone. He said it was unfortunate, but without evidence, there was nothing he could do. Mrs. Patterson's daughter was furious. She filed a formal complaint with the state licensing board, and that's when Derek made his move. 3 days after the complaint was filed, Richard called me into his office. Derek was already there, sitting in the corner with his arms crossed and that smirk on his face. "Close the door," Richard said. I closed it. "We have a serious problem." Richard slid a piece of paper across the desk. "Do you recognize this?" It was a compliance form, the kind the state requires every care facility to submit monthly, documenting medication administration, incident reports, and resident safety checks. I recognized it because I was the one who usually prepared them. But this one was different. The numbers were wrong. The medication counts didn't match our records. 3 incident reports that should have been included were missing. And at the bottom, where the administrator's signature should be, there was a signature that looked like mine. Except I didn't sign it. "This form was submitted to the state last month," Richard said. "It's fraudulent. The medication counts are falsified. The incident reports were deliberately omitted, and your signature is on it." "I didn't sign that. It's your handwriting." "It's not." I kept my voice steady even though my hands were shaking. "Someone forged it." Derek scoffed. A small sound, like I'd said something ridiculous. Richard leaned back in his chair. "The state is already investigating the theft complaint. If they find out we submitted falsified documents, they'll shut us down. Do you understand what you've done?" "I didn't do anything. That's not my signature." "Then whose is it?" I looked at Derek. He stared back at me, eyes cold, mouth curled into that smug little smile. I could have said it right then. I could have told Richard about watching Derek delete the camera footage. I could have shown him the video on my phone. I could have blown the whole thing wide open. But I didn't, because I realized something in that moment. Richard wasn't asking questions to find the truth. He was asking questions to confirm what he already believed. And what he believed was that his son was innocent and I was guilty. Nothing I said would change that. "I didn't do it," I said quietly. "But I can see you've already made up your mind." Richard's jaw tightened. "You're suspended without pay until you apologize to Derek for trying to implicate him in your mistakes. Once you take responsibility and show genuine remorse, we can discuss your future here." Derek's smirk widened. I looked at my stepdad, the man my mother loved, the man who was supposed to be my family. And I saw exactly who he was. "Okay," I said. Richard blinked. "Okay? Okay, I'll go." I stood up, walked out of his office, and didn't look back. And if you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button right now and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I drove home in silence. My mom was at work. The house was empty. I sat on my bed and stared at the wall for a long time. They thought I would crumble. They thought I would cry, beg, apologize for something I didn't do just to keep my job. They thought I was weak because I was quiet, because I never fought back, because I always kept the peace. They were wrong. I pulled out my phone and looked at the video I'd recorded. Derek at the security computer, deleting files, destroying evidence. Then I opened my laptop. "See? Here's the thing about being the boring office girl. Nobody pays attention to you. Nobody thinks twice when you make copies of documents. Nobody notices when you back up files to a personal drive just in case. I had copies of every compliance form I'd ever prepared, the real ones, with the real numbers. And none of them had my signature, because I wasn't authorized to sign them. Only Richard or Derek could do that. I also had emails, dozens of them. Derek asking me to fix medication counts that didn't add up. Derek telling me to lose incident reports that made the facility look bad. Derek pressuring me to backdate documents so the state wouldn't ask questions. I'd never done any of it. I'd always found excuses, made delays, let things slip through the cracks. But the emails proved he'd been trying to commit fraud for months, and now he'd forged my signature to cover his tracks. I didn't sleep that night. I organized everything into a folder. Documents, emails, screenshots, the video of Derek deleting footage. A complete picture of what had really been happening at Sunny Pines. The next morning, I drove to the state licensing office in downtown Austin. The woman at the front desk looked tired. She'd probably heard 100 complaints from disgruntled employees trying to get revenge on their bosses. "I need to report a compliance violation," I said. She handed me a form without looking up. "Fill this out and someone will contact you in 6 to 8 weeks. The facility is falsifying medication records and destroying evidence of theft from elderly residents. I have documentation." She looked up. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in a conference room with 2 state investigators. I showed them everything. The real compliance forms versus the forged one with my signature. The emails from Derek. The video of him deleting camera footage. One of the investigators, a woman named Sandra, watched the video 3 times. "When was this recorded?" she asked. 6 days ago, the night before the theft complaint was filed." "And this form?" She held up the forged document. "When did you first see it?" "Yesterday, when my stepfather accused me of submitting it." Sandra exchanged a look with her partner. "We were already planning an inspection based on the theft complaint. I think we'll move that up." "How soon?" "Tomorrow morning." I nodded. "There's one more thing you should know." "What's that?" "The medication counts on that forged form. They're not just wrong. They're lower than what we actually have in stock. That means either someone's stealing medication or someone's billing for drugs that were never administered to residents." Sandra's expression hardened. "That's a felony." "I know." I went home and waited. My phone buzzed with texts from my mom. Richard told her I'd been suspended. She wanted to know what happened. I told her I'd explain everything soon, but I needed her to trust me. She sent back a single heart emoji. That was enough. Derek texted me around midnight. I almost didn't open it. "Smart move, keeping quiet. Apologize tomorrow, and this all goes away. We can be a real family." I stared at that message for a long time. A real family. As if family meant accepting blame for things you didn't do. As if family meant letting someone destroy your reputation to protect themselves. I didn't respond. The next morning, I parked across the street from Sunny Pines and waited. At exactly 9:00 a.m., a white state vehicle pulled into the parking lot. 2 people got out, Sandra and her partner, both carrying clipboards and folders. They walked through the front door. I couldn't see what happened next, but I could imagine it. Richard's confused smile as he welcomed them. Derek's face when he realized this wasn't a routine visit. The slow, dawning horror as Sandra started asking questions about medication counts and missing camera footage. My phone rang. Richard's name on the screen. I declined the call. It rang again. Declined. A text from Derek. "What did you do?" I turned off my phone. The inspection lasted 6 hours. I sat in my car the entire time, watching people come and go. Richard's lawyer arrived around noon, looking stressed. 2 Austin police cruisers showed up in the early afternoon. Around 5 o'clock, Sandra walked out the front door. She saw my car across the street and walked over. I rolled down my window. "It's bad," she said, "worse than we thought." "How bad?" "The medication discrepancy wasn't just paperwork errors. Someone's been diverting controlled substances, opioids mostly, billing the residents' insurance, pocketing the drugs." My stomach dropped. "Derek?" "We're not sure yet. The investigation will take time, but the facility is being shut down effective immediately. Residents are being transferred to other facilities tonight." "What about my stepfather?" Sandra's expression was carefully neutral. "He's the administrator of record. He's responsible for everything that happens under his license. Even if he didn't know about the fraud, and I'm not saying he didn't, he's still liable for failing to prevent it." "And Derek?" "He's currently being interviewed by the police, something about a video showing him deleting security footage." I closed my eyes. It was over. "You did the right thing," Sandra said. "Those residents deserved someone looking out for them." I just told the truth. Sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. She walked back to her car and drove away. I sat there for another hour, watching the chaos unfold. Families arriving to collect their loved ones, staff members leaving in tears, news vans from local Austin stations pulling up to capture footage of the building with its cheerful Sunny Pines sign. Around 6 o'clock, I finally drove home. The whole drive, I felt nothing. No relief, no victory. Just this hollow pit in my stomach. Because I realized something. Richard would have called my mom by now. He would have told her his version first, and I had no idea what she believed. For 2 years, she'd chosen him. She'd defended him. She'd told me to keep the peace, to give Derek a chance, to stop making things harder than they needed to be. What if she blamed me for destroying her marriage? What if she looked at me and saw the person who burned her life down? I sat in the driveway for 10 minutes, engine off, hands shaking. Then I walked inside. My mom was sitting at the kitchen table. When I walked in, her eyes were red. She'd been crying. "Richard called," she said. "He told me what happened." I sat down across from her. "What did he say?" "That you reported the facility to the state, that you got them shut down, that you destroyed everything he built because you were angry about being suspended." "Is that what you believe?" She was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took my hand. "I believe my daughter. I've always believed my daughter. And I should have listened to you 2 years ago when you said something wasn't right about that family." The tears came then. I couldn't stop them. 2 years of swallowed words, bitten tongues, forced smiles. 2 years of watching my mom try to make a broken situation work. 2 years of being treated like the problem because I was the one willing to see the truth. She held me while I cried. "What happens now?" I finally asked. "Now we figure out what comes next, together." The fallout was swift, but not before Richard tried one last move. 2 days after the inspection, I got a call from a lawyer. Richard was threatening to sue me for defamation and wrongful interference with his business. He claimed I'd fabricated evidence. He claimed the video was edited. He was going to drag me through court and bury me in legal fees until I had nothing left. I didn't sleep for 3 nights. Then, the state released their official findings, and suddenly, Richard's lawyer stopped calling. His license was permanently revoked. He was barred from ever operating a care facility again. The state fined him $340,000 for compliance violations, and he faced a civil lawsuit from 6 families whose loved ones had been affected by the medication fraud. Derek was arrested. The police traced the missing opioids to a dealer he'd been selling them to for months. He was charged with drug diversion, elder abuse, and fraud. He tried to blame me, of course, said I'd set him up, but the evidence was overwhelming. The forged signature, the deleted footage, the emails asking me to help him falsify records. He pleaded guilty to avoid a trial. He got 4 years. Richard tried to contact my mom a few times. She never responded. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. She got the house, her savings, and her freedom. The news covered the story for about a week. Austin Care Facility shut down after fraud investigation. They interviewed families, showed footage of elderly residents being moved to other facilities, talked about the importance of oversight and senior care. My name was never mentioned. I was just an employee who reported concerns to the state. That was fine with me. I didn't want recognition. I wanted justice, and I got it. But that's not the end of the story. About a year later, I was finishing my first semester of nursing school. I decided that if I was going to work in healthcare, I wanted to do it right. I wanted to be the person who caught problems before they hurt people. My mom had started dating again. A nice man named Robert who owned a bookstore downtown. He made her laugh in ways I hadn't heard since before my dad died. I liked him. Life was good, quiet, normal. I should have known it wouldn't last. One afternoon, I was studying at a coffee shop when a shadow fell across my table. I looked up. My stomach dropped. Richard. He looked older, thinner. The confidence that used to radiate from him was gone, replaced by something hollow and broken. "I just want to talk," he said. I closed my textbook. "Then talk." "I lost everything. The business, my savings. My son is in prison. My wife left me." He paused. I keep asking myself how it all went so wrong. "Do you want me to tell you?" "Yes." I leaned forward. "You chose your son over the truth. Every single time you chose to believe him instead of looking at the evidence. When residents complained, you blamed the staff. When paperwork didn't add up, you blamed me. When the state came asking questions, you blamed everyone except the person actually responsible." "I was trying to protect my family." "No, you were trying to protect your ego. You couldn't admit that your son was a thief and a liar because That would mean admitting you'd raised him wrong, so you sacrificed everyone else instead. Richard's eyes were wet. I didn't know about the drugs. I swear I didn't know. Maybe not. But you knew the footage was deleted. You knew the paperwork didn't add up. You knew something was wrong, and you chose not to look too closely because you didn't want to see it. He was quiet for a long time. "I'm sorry," he finally said. "For what it's worth. I'm sorry for how I treated you." I gathered my books and stood up. "It's not worth much," I said, "but I hope you learn from it." I walked out and never saw him again. Mrs. Patterson, the woman whose belongings were stolen, was transferred to a facility closer to her daughter in San Antonio. I visited her a few months after everything happened. She was doing well. Her daughter had recovered the stolen items from a pawn shop where Derek had sold them. "I knew it wasn't you," Mrs. Patterson said, holding my hand. "You were always so kind. Always brought me tea. That boy, though," she shook her head. "Something wrong in his eyes. I could see it. Why didn't you say anything?" "Who would have believed me? I'm just a forgetful old woman, right?" She smiled. "But you believed me. You fought for me. That means more than you know." I still visit her. She's 91 now and sharp as ever. She says I'm her favorite person. I tell her she's mine too. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what I did. If I feel guilty for destroying my stepfather's business, for sending my stepbrother to prison, for breaking up my mother's marriage. I don't. Because I didn't destroy anything, they destroyed themselves. I just refuse to help them hide it anymore. So let me ask you something. Have you ever been underestimated by someone who had no idea who they were dealing with? Drop a comment and tell me your story. Where are you watching from? Austin, Atlanta, London, Texas, Dubai? I want to know. And if you enjoyed watching Justice Get Served, hit that like button and subscribe. We drop new stories daily. Stay smart, stay patient. See you in the next one.